Hello and welcome back to another video on the channel here. Again, we're in a different surrounding. Apologies for that. I'm hoping to get it sorted as quickly as possible, but we'll make do with this for now. I'm going to try and run through a few things a little bit quicker today. I've got a busy week, so I'm trying to get this done. I still want to get a preview video done this weekend as well for build up for the Sheffield United game. Obviously, first game of the season is a big time for us to be covering, and yeah, that needs to be coming out. So I'll try and be a little bit quicker today, but there are a few things to go over the past week or so since we last spoke, on here at least. But yes, we'll get into it. Let me just make sure. Sorry. Okay, so let's start off actually with the preseason game. Obviously it was 0-0 against Southampton, but there's a few things to take away from it. Firstly, best just to go over the lineup real quick, because there were a few interesting inclusions or players not included. Obviously the big one, you look at the lineup here that stands out to you. Emmanuel Dennis is starting again, which is good to see, but no Ismail Assar, which was the question mark. It seems, or at least we've been told, he had a slight knee injury. They kept him out of this one completely, which could be true, it could not be. We don't really know at this point, but he was at the game. And supposedly seemed in good spirits by all accounts. But yeah, Emmanuel Dennis played, and he played quite well, I thought, but we'll get into it. But the other the other player not included, worth noting, is Samir, who looks to be off, which again we'll get to a little bit later in the video. But starting just with the game in general, we saw us kind of line up as we expected in that 3-5-2. Minaj and Dennis centrally, with Dennis drifting a little bit wider. And then Pedro playing in behind almost as a 10, which was interesting to see. It was good to see that kind of movement come into play in the forward areas, and I thought we looked pretty good. The shape was good. I thought we looked quite solid defensively, and the back three looked like it was working well. And also the goalkeeper there, worth a mention as well. Another one included Daniel Bachmann, who again we'll get to shortly, but looks to be the start of the season. So Noah Coy in the starting lineup this week. It was Bachmann, and I thought the team did well. We'll get to the standouts, I think. Now we kind of discussed just the overall shape from the outset and what we kind of saw. We saw some better movement. I thought the control was much better, timing was better. We started to see more intensity off the ball. I think we'll still see more in the opening game against Sheffield United, but there were some positives, and for a 0-0 draw I think we can be quite happy with what we saw. But standouts for me, I thought, Pedro again. He looks very comfortable in the ball. Technique is very good. He looks sharp. He looks fit. And actually, the team as a whole, I thought, looked very fit. I thought we looked in good shape, and we weren't really flagging towards the end. I know a lot of players, or a few players, were withdrawn early, but I thought the fitness levels and the application was really good from the players. But that kind of starts with Pedro there. I thought he led from the front well when he did get forward. But in that kind of deeper position, I thought it really suited him. It was interesting to see. Kamara playing out on the right-hand side is still somewhat of a concern. That's still something we have to address, and that's potentially being addressed. Potentially not. We'll see. But it wasn't a perfect setup. Ken Sema had to start on the left. He did fine, but in an ideal world, we're going to see Kamara occupy that left-hand side. I thought the midfield too did well. I thought Kayembe had a good game. He looked more comfortable and more useful in this one. I think having the players around him that were pushing on and him kind of holding a little bit more, it didn't kind of not expose weaknesses, but in last season when he came into the team, we needed creativity, we needed drive, and at the Premier League level, when the team he came into, the Roy Hodgson team that he was playing in, I think it was very hard for him to do so, and I think we weren't putting him into a good situation to succeed. The jury is still out on him. We'll still have to remain to be seen, but as a 23-year-old player, I thought he started that game well. He had a few occasions where maybe he looked sideways rather than forwards a little bit, but he held his position well. He was strong, and he drove forward with the ball a couple of occasions too, which is really useful and promising to see. So we need to make sure that midfield kind of area is secure, and I think that was promising to see there. Obviously, as I said, Dennis did well. Siriati coming back into the team also did well. I thought Minaj was decent actually. He wasn't a major goal threat, but I thought he had some physicality and some harrying to that front line, which we'll no doubt see more of. If we can add goals to that as well, that'd be great. But I think for what we needed out of him, I thought he was good. And who else have we got on here? There was another stand-up performance, I thought. Well, that was kind of the main ones at the starters. We kind of pretty much covered everyone there. We did see some subs. of course, still some more players got to the pitch. And the kind of one we really want to talk about, I think, from that perspective, was Yasser Asprilla came on. Another interesting kind of facet of that substitution was that we changed shape somewhat. We switched to more of a 3-4-3. João Pedro pushed forwards, became a central figure, and then we had Dennis on the left for a while and Asprilla on the right, and it was really good to see that. I think having that versatility and that different ways of attacking teams, different ways of defending, and allowing different areas of attack, and having Asprilla on that right hand side, he was very controlled. Obviously, we've all seen the clip, most likely, where he popped up and kind of won the flick on header through to the midfield from that right hand side, or through to the forward, sorry. And he looked really lively, he looked energetic, he looked sharp, his burst was good, his control, his body control, his strength looked good too. He just looked in a good position for an 18-year-old. I think he's someone, again, we've talked about him a fair bit, but I've got high hopes for Asprilla, and that little cameo appearance there I thought was one to take a lot of positives from. And as I said, the change of shape was interesting too, especially if we are talking about retaining Sarr and Dennis. That could be something we see more of, that 3-4-3. And in kind of going along that kind of vein of conversation, that topic there, the ability to play Pedro in that attacking midfield position with the extra numbers we have in the forward positions, with Dennis being here still, obviously Minaj, Bayo, and potentially Ismaila Sarr, it allows Pedro to play deeper. What it does do for us is it allows us to consolidate and focus, or kind of reduce the numbers needed in that midfield position. I think one of the worrying areas we had going into the season was central midfield. We have cover for Louza, who's out for a little while. What's kind of the depth behind Louza, Kayembe, and Tonde Bashiru, especially if three are playing. But if we are playing with Pedro or potentially Asprilla or any of these players in that attacking midfield position, do we then feel more comfortable with that group we have? Do we think that Kayembe, Louza, Tonde Bashiru, Gosling, Cleverley, is that enough for two positions? And at this point, I think it probably is, especially when you've got Domingos Quina there potentially too. I think that the central midfield position is as likely needed to be filled, but that does, however, rely on at least one of Ismaila Sarr and Emmanuel Dennis staying this season, at least for part of it. But you'd hope for all of it if they were to stay. So that would be an interesting one. Does he have that effects of recruitment elsewhere? Because we know it doesn't just affect now. It doesn't just affect the striking positions if they were to go. It's also the way that we have to reallocate our assets and other positions are the holes that opens up. One position we do know that we need to fill. Actually, before we go into that, we will just discuss real quick. So Daniel Bachmann was named as the starting goalkeeper. We see another good piece by Andrew French here, who was officially retained by the Watford Observer this week. So that was good to hear as well. So congratulations to Andrew. I think we've all enjoyed his work. So Daniel Bachmann will start the keeper as first choice goalkeeper this season. So he'll be in goal against Sheffield United. And it was kind of surprising the reaction to that. I think there's quite a lot of negative feedback and comments on that one. But look, I mean, Bachmann played as a starting goalkeeper for us. We wanted him over Foster the majority of the time in the Championship, and we felt quite good in him. It was difficult last year, but I think there are things to like with Bachmann. I don't think it's a bad decision. We have a Coy who's close, you'd say, most likely. And look, why not? If Edwards feels good on Bachmann, let's go with that. And we've got a backup who's more than capable and should be fighting for that first team place. He should be wanting to start. He's got an opportunity to start if he does well in training. And if Bachmann makes a few mistakes, there's always the opportunity. So we'll see. I think it's more than adequate. I don't think that's a bad goalkeeper rotation at all. I think we should be quite confident in that. So yeah, I'm not quite on board with the kind of negative reaction. I think give Dan a chance and let's see what happens. And then also we had Tom Cleverley announced as the club captain. Rob Edwards again through Andrew French. You see the little quote there. He epitomises everything we stand for as a football club. And look, will Tom be on the field at all times? Probably not. I doubt it. But as a character, we all appreciate him as Watford fans. And if we get more out of Tom from him being captain, then by all means let's do it again. And there's loads of elements to being a captain, multiple factors that kind of play into it. And if you feel that, or if Rob feels that he's getting that from Tom and it's working, it will help the team, then by all means let's go for it. But going back to the kind of ingoings and outgoings, in that right wing back position, we discussed how Kamara's having to fill in on that right hand side. We need to sort that out so he can back on the left and find out what we're going to do on the right hand side. Obviously, there's going to be the talking point of Kiko Femenia. He's now leaving to join Villarreal. all but complete. A couple of reasons. I think one of the main ones that was cited here from Giretta was his want to be back in Spain. He's had some family issues recently, and he wants to be back home, and that's completely understandable. I think he's been a great player for us. I think he's been central to a lot of the good things that we've done. He's always played well, especially in the more progressive teams he's played in, Marco Silva's and Javi Gracia. He's been someone that's really performed, and he was a great asset in the Championship, and by all accounts from people I've spoken to, he was a good guy around the team. And I think out of all the players and the disruption we've had, we kind of saw that Dan Gosling article that came out, an interview again by Andrew French during the week, and he was one that wasn't one of the negatives. He was a positive. So it's a shame to see him go to Villarreal and join Etienne Capoue. But another part of this deal is that there's one coming the other way, looking to have his medical as the time of recording this tomorrow, but when this is out probably today, and that's Mario Gaspar. Spanish right back again, but a little bit different. And the conversation has been, they're bringing in Kiko Firmino, we're getting their cast off and so on. But I think we're kind of underselling Mario Gaspar here. He's 31, he's turning 32, but obviously highly capped for Villarreal and their club captain. He's kind of fallen out of the team a little bit. I think the way Villarreal operate now is slightly different. The way they play is slightly different, and he wants the opportunity to play. And I don't blame him at all. He's still at a good age, and there's been some varying opinion on this one too. And I think I understand, because there's been comments about young homegrown players we want to bring in. We want a homegrown right wing back, and then suddenly we're looking at a 31-year-old Mario Gaspar who's still obviously not homegrown. What's the thinking behind this? And look, I think there's a few ways to looking at this. First, intangibles. I think it's a big one. Gaspar is for anyone that's a fan of Spanish football, La Liga over the last decade. Mario Gaspar has been a central figure to that league. He's been he's been a character that everyone knows, and he's someone that is well respected, almost universally talked well of or spoken well of. He's a leader. He's been a captain for a reason. And when we're trying to change culture at a football club, I don't think it's bad to bring those guys in. Now, you don't only bring them in because their personalities are intangibles, but you have to take it into account. There's one that's harder for us to gauge, perhaps, but with Gaspar, it's quite publicly discussed how important he's been at Villarreal, and I think we're bringing in a leader and a winner, and I think that's something you always want to add to your team when possible. Now, on top of that, I still think he's a very good player. I think the talk of his legs going, maybe a bit, but he's someone that's intelligent. He's an intelligent defender, I think, for the most part. There's been discussion of a potential outside right centre back position, which I think could happen. He's not played a ton there, but if you're looking at a right back who's going to carry the ball forward, and I think that's kind of where Gaspar's strength is, carrying that ball forward, then it could be a position he utilises well, or he does well at. I wouldn't mind seeing him there at all. His range of passing, it's decent. He gets a lot of criticism for overhit crosses and stuff. I think it's been mentioned as well during the week. But he's actually a goal threat going forward. He can strike the ball, he'll overlap, he'll underlap, and he likes to get forward. And I think he's a classy addition if he comes in. Well, he looks almost certain to now at this point. But it'd be really interesting to see how we use him, because there's still room, in my opinion, to bring him in as a centre-back and right wing-back cover or starter, and still add an additional homegrown option at wing-back should we see fit, if we're not comfortable in the likes of Hungbo, etc. But I think give this one an opportunity. I mean, I think there's potential for this to be a good move. It obviously could go badly. There's a lot of more factors in play again, as we say. It's a new country, new league, lots of things to get used to. You're moving away. He's been very settled, very kind of same routine his time at Villarreal, and it's a big change for him at this time in his career. But as a player, I think there's every opportunity that he does well, and he's a useful acquisition for us. So it should be interesting to see, and I'm looking forward to it, honestly. I think it's I think it should be quite good, or I'm at least intrigued, put it that way. So that's one of the kind of comings and goings. Next one is we've got some confirmation here from Adam Leventhal on the deal to bring in Mario Gaspar, 2-year deal, and it's going to be a free, but the cancelling of his contract is kind of offsetting the fee that's paid to us for Kiko, to kind of reduce that, and I guess that's kind of beneficial for both sides. But let's actually see in regards to Samir now. Samir's the other one outgoing. Wasn't included in that friendly as we discussed, and looks set to be replaced. Now the options that have been discussed now, Adam Leventhal has been reporting, because it's supposedly a homegrown player, looking likely to be a loan option. And these are a couple of names that Leventhal has been discussing here. And honestly, for me, the names that we're discussing, we're talking about, a little bit uninspiring, perhaps. Obviously, a loan option makes it a little bit of a different. We view it through a different lens, because we're not kind of developing the player as much for ourselves as much as for another club. But if they come in and do a job for us, it's a position we need to fill. It's worthwhile. But names discussed. I won't click through the article here, because I know it's a pay-for service. I don't want to kind of just distribute that stuff. But Matt Clark from Brighton, you see on the right of the picture here, 25 years old, one player of the season on loan at West Brom last year, and a good centre-back, someone that I think would improve the team for sure. And Courtney House as well, which again, same sort of vein. At Aston Villa, loan option, 27 years old. This one's Courtney seems a bit less likely to me. I feel like I think given the circumstances at Villa, it's more likely he stays there than comes here. But these are two potential options, and I think if we got one done, hopefully sooner the better. But with them both being Premier League clubs, there's no real benefit for them to do it early, especially for a loan. The only difference would be if we were to say try and bring one of them in on a permanent basis. I believe the article might even say that Clark has maybe a year left or 2 years left in his contract. If we were looking to try and bring him in as a permanent, then maybe we could accelerate the deal. But on a loan, we'll probably wait until right down to the wire, end of August sort of time. But it's a position we need to improve on. I need to bring in reinforcements, because right now with Samir out of that team, I don't like the look of left centre back, especially if we haven't figured out the right hand side and Kamara is still forced to play on the right. Sema, and then potentially you're looking at Trustakong, Kabasele playing at left centre back side. I'm not liking how our left looks. So hopefully this is a situation that gets resolved fairly soonly, because I think it's quite an urgent one. To be resolved as quickly as possible. Okay, and then I guess actually I wasn't thinking about discussing. I actually forgot this. This had taken place, but the interview with Dan Gosling. I guess I maybe shouldn't go through the article piece by piece, but maybe just kind of discuss some of the talking points if I can find it. But it's interesting. It's an exposing article. If you haven't read it yet, it's a piece by Andrew French. Again, he's been getting a lot of airtime in this episode of this video. But just discussing last season, Gosling's experience last season, his feelings towards his own career trajectory over the last year, and also kind of what was going on at the club behind the scenes. And I think one of the kind of real illuminating points we talk about, or he talks about when you're speaking to Andrew here, is the culture at the club and how toxic things became. I believe he describes it as the worst dressing room he's been a part of, and it's disappointing, super disappointing to hear as a Watford fan. He talks about Ranieri coming in, how bad that was handled, how poor the training was, the quality, and Roy Hodgson, how when him and Ray Lewington came in, the standards it's got a little bit better, and then just start to drop off and slip away, and the players' mentality of kind of diving into this kind of negativity and not caring and just being done with the season before it was over. And it's it's exactly what everyone thought on the pitch. We got to hear it from a player that was involved, and whilst it is kind of irritating to hear, I think at least it's somewhat vindicating that we have an idea, we've got a handle on what was going on there, and it's nice to hear a player talk openly about it. Obviously, he kind of got his own reasons, I guess, too. But he seems, by all means, like a decent guy who's kind of explaining his feelings and being pretty open about it. I hope it's got better, of course. I think Rob's probably made a difference there, especially when it comes to kind of the way that the team is being coached and negative aspects of that in regards to the coaching, I think that will be much improved. The culture should also be improved. I think the players coming in, it's key that we have to find players that want to be part of the project, that want to be involved in this, rebuild, and that's true for players we have existing now. Ones we're looking to move on, the Samir's a good player. I like him at left centre back. He'd be a good option for us, but if he wants to be elsewhere, let's work around it. Let's see what we can do. Let's find a balance, and that goes for Ismail Assar and Emmanuel Dennis too. They've got a lot of quality, a lot of attributes we want, and we'd have to go out and try and replicate it, try and find in the market. It would be almost impossible to do with the budget we're looking to spend. So if they are going to be here, let's hope they actually want to be here, or they're willing to be here, and they're going to commit to it, because they'll be a real asset. So trying to change that culture is going to be one of the biggest jobs that Rob has. And whilst we can't see it on a day-to-day basis behind the scenes in the training ground, what we can see is kind of the output on the pitch. And football has a way of telling stories on the pitch in terms of those sorts of things, and that's why we have an idea. Despite all the little kind of rumours and stuff that come out from within the team, you can often make judgments to quite an accurate degree by the way players are operating on the pitch for 90 minutes. And so hopefully we see some improvement there. So schedule for the rest of the week. As I said, I'm pretty busy this week, but I'm going to try and get as much as I can done. Looking to have another video. Again, this one will be pre-Sheffield United. Going to talk about kind of where we're at, kind of coming down close to the game, what we're looking like, what we're kind of expecting to see from us, what our kind of hopes are. Looking at Sheffield United, seeing how their pre-season's developed, their comings and goings, looking how they're probably going to line up, and then seeing what kind of matchups we can look at. Where's this game going to be won? Where's it going to be lost? What can we do? What can Rob do? What can this team do to win this game and kind of get off to a winning start? Where could Sheffield United stop us? It's going to be just a little look at the two teams and trying to kind of break that thing down and try and learn a little bit for all of us. So I think I'm going to stop there. I could go a bit longer, but I'm a bit short of time. I think we covered all the kind of main aspects. So thanks for watching. I think this is a bit shorter today, but thanks for watching again. And I'll be back with the Watford Buzz podcast this week as well. Hopefully be able to get that recorded in time. And then also another video, hopefully some visuals on Twitter. We'll be discussing things there. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch on there. Have a conversation about whatever you want to, really. Any feedback's more appreciated. Come over, follow me at Jordan Weimer at Watford Analytics on Twitter. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you again next time. Thank you very much for watching again.